AJ, El Presidente, Eddie Kane University. Hill gon' heal, regardless. You, Buchanan, Bethel High School, by way of 3-Man Weave, LLC.
Michelle, producer, based over here.
You can catch this wave from the Marlins to the Mariners. Doing things you can't believe. It's the 3-Man Weave.
Ooh, baby. I'm gonna go ahead and intro on this one because you know what, this is right up my alley. You know, we doing our divisional roundup, and it's only right that AJ, Mr. Red Cup repping the Bengals, gives you this intro. We will be doing the AFC North. We'll be doing the AFC East a little bit later, but it's only right we do the AFC North first. And so we have a great show lined up. So, as always, I got my guys with me. Can y'all please introduce yourself to the people? Let them know who you are.
It's your boy Buchanan, Washington fan extraordinary. It cut the cap. It looked like it ain't my episode way. AFC North. Special things happening for y'all. So without further ado, who else we got?
Y'all already know who it is. Your boy Hill. Hill go Hill regardless, baby. Let's get it. Am I good?
Yeah, you good. You good. Let them know where they can find you.
Good.
Oh, my fault. Y'all can catch us on all major podcast platforms. 3-Man Weave, Instagram, Twitter, 3-Man Weave _. You can email us at podcast.3.man.weave@gmail.com. Also, we on Twitch and TikTok, 3-Man Weave _. Hey, AFC North.
Let's get it. So we got some special guests here with us tonight, man. So we gonna intro them, and then we gonna get this started. You know how it go. But first off, we got our guys in the building. We got Hakeem Cannon in the building, and of course we got our guys from the Brew Party in the building joining us. So this is definitely gonna be fun. And of course, we got Eric. We got Eric pulling up on us. Our guy, Mark Jackson, he in the building.
Steelers fan.
Of course. Ro. Can we have a show without Ro in the building?
We cannot have a show without Ro.
Absolutely. So we gonna get into it. First off, representing the Pittsburgh Squealers. I mean, the representing the Pittsburgh, representing them. We got our guy.
Yeah, no, come on,
Steelers.
Man. Come on,
our
man.
guy, Marcus Palmer.
Take over here.
All right.
Yo, what's going on?
We can already see how this
going
go.
I still got love for you. I still got some love for you, but that's it.
I gotta show love.
Absolutely. So we also have our guy. He was so gracious to join us. We appreciate him for putting up with us and pulling up to the 3-Man Weave podcast one time. So we got our guy Nick Pedone joining us. What's going on, Nick?
What's up, guys from Cleveland? Glad to be repping on the 3-Man Weave tonight.
Absolutely.
We're glad to have you. All the way from Cleveland. Come on now.
This is for you.
The mistake by
Cleveland.
The mistake by the lake. Hey, Farmer. First off, we're gonna jump to you. Let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Hey, man, this is M Farmer. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at DudaMath, DUDA_MAF. I don't have any podcasts to shout out. You know what I'm saying? So it's just me. I'm here to represent the 6-time Super Bowl Steelers. I don't think the AFC North has 6 together, but that's another conversation. But hey,
that's what we
early with it. Come on,
Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at NickPedone12, on IG at Nick Pedone. I'm the host of Pedone My Take on the Big Play Network, so whole lot of Browns talk and Cleveland sports on there.
Okay.
All right. And then our third and final guest, he just joined us.
Just in time.
It's our guy, Kevin Oestreicher from the Locked On Ravens podcast. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Finally, I fixed everything. The light is on. I'm not in a crazy dark room anymore. So I think that's a good thing. But I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
What's going on, Kev?
Kevin, let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, so I am on Twitter. My personal account is at Oestreicher34, and I also host and produce the show Locked On Ravens. That's 5 days a week. That Twitter handle's at Locked On Ravens. That's anywhere, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. I also am the managing editor for the Ravens Wire for USA Today. So my work is over there, written content, 7 days a week over there. So I pretty much live and breathe Ravens football right now.
I appreciate your time, sir. Appreciate your time, sir. Now, look, I'm gonna start off spicy. Y'all already been starting off spicy. I know we trying to take little baby steps, but I remember that AJ said in a couple episodes a while ago. He said that, and I'm going to loosely quote him: "Big Ben will be the worst quarterback in this division this season." Do y'all agree?
Yeah.
You want me to answer that?
No, let everybody else go first.
Yeah, you go last.
Nick already jumped in and said an emphatic yeah. Kevin, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think yes, and I don't want to discredit everything he's done, but we're looking at now. We're looking at the present, and you have Heisman winners, and you have young quarterbacks who I think are going to continue to ascend, continue to take leaps. Everybody has the weapons now. I think all 4 quarterbacks have really nice weapons, but I just think with the way that Pittsburgh's offense it's on the downtrend. I'm not saying it's going to be terrible. I think people are looking at Pittsburgh and saying they're going to be a 2-win team or a 4-win team. That's not how it's going to be. They're still going to be competitive. I just think we're going to see more ascensions from Baltimore in their pass game. Cleveland is Cleveland with their weapons, and Cincinnati, I think, is also going to be there too.
Okay, Nick.
Yeah,
I'm going to go last on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with them. You know what I mean? I think that all the young quarterbacks are showing what they were able to do last season, and the Browns especially, kind of put the Steelers out of their misery there at the end. They had the troublesome game against Washington, and then some really tough stretches of bad football where Ben looked like he was the worst quarterback in the division last year, and that was a division with Ryan Finley as a starting quarterback for the last couple of games. So I look at this division and just a lot of young talent, and Big Ben is the outlier. And maybe that's not, such a bad thing for the long term, because you guys have a couple good, young, just flyer dudes over there in Pittsburgh. You have Dwayne Haskins, who's, from Ohio, Buckeye kid. We followed him closely here during his time at Ohio State. So maybe that could pan out. If not, maybe Mason Rudolph. But Big Ben for this year, not it.
AJ.
Everybody told me I was hating.
Yeah. So AJ, explain your statement.
The reason why I explained my statement is because I just looked around the division, saw what the rest of the division had, and I also took into account how everyone talked about the Bengals last season with our offensive line. It's almost like the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to take a page out of the Bengals book and not do anything with their offensive line. You have an aging quarterback. This ain't old Big Ben. This ain't Big Ben who's going to be in the pocket, breaking tackles and making plays on the move. Even though he wasn't like a great runner, but he was strong and he was going to break tackles. So he's back there. He's a statue now, and he's always fucking hurt. So you can't tell me that putting him behind that. What you do in the draft is go and get a first-round running back when a lot of running backs are only as good as their offensive line. You can't tell me you put that patchwork offensive line together and just going to hope everything pans out. And you can't tell me that this is going to be a good season for Big Ben. You guys are in jeopardy of having Mike Tomlin's worst season ever.
Now, Marcus Farmer, it's your turn to rebuttal. You heard what these guys have said.
I just don't think Tomlin going to go out like that. Let me say that before he goes.
I feel you.
Yeah, Ricky ain't think he was going to go out like that either.
First, let me come to the Tomlin thing. When Big Ben got hurt second week of the season, the year before last, we went 8-8 with a backup quarterback who shouldn't even be in the NFL. So let's start there. So even with our worst team, worst foot forward, we went 8-8. So let's start there. So
not your worst offensive line though.
Keep Mike Tomlin out your mouth. So let's start there. Second of all, if I told you last year that Big Ben threw for 33 touchdowns and only 10 interceptions with a 94 quarterback rating, what would you say? So show me. If everybody, it's such a hot take right now for everybody to say the Big Ben's on decline is going to be the worst quarterback in the NFL or worst quarterback in the division, where Joe Burrow hasn't even completed a full season yet. And don't get me wrong, everybody's a Super Bowl contender preseason, so that's cool. Let's clap our hands. You got it. The Bengals offensive line is probably as bad, not bad as Pittsburgh Steelers, and the 3 offensive linemen that we lost, probably the lowest grade offensive lineman in the division last year. So what did we really lose? Sometimes it's addition by subtraction. So yeah, we got rid of ours. So we got rid of Villanueva. He's with the Ravens, and we seen what he's doing in preseason. He might not even make the team. He's their starting right tackle right now. Good riddance. Thank God y'all have him. We lost Marquise Pouncey. That one hurt, not necessarily for the performance, but for the experience and just being the captain on the O-line. We replaced him with a young third rounder, Kendrick Green, who I think is going to be a star. People are sleeping on right now. We replaced we picked up Trey Turner, Pro Bowl guard. You know what I'm saying? He was hurt last year, coming back, so you can't beat that. So you might call it patchwork, but we drafted Kevin Dotson. We drafted Dan Moore. So we have some pieces on the O-line that's going great. We drafted, if not the best running back prospect in the last 5 years, it's Najee Harris, who can catch out the backfield as ran in between the tackles and a true 3-down back. So if you're going to ask my opinion, who's Big Ben, I will be remiss if I say he's the best, but he's no worse than the 3rd quarterback in the division, because right now Joe Burrow hasn't shown us anything. He hasn't even shown us he could play a full season yet. So let's pump the brakes before we start throwing Joe Burrow in the elites in the AFC North.
Okay.
And listen, one point that I want to add. One, I like how you're definitely prepared. I like that. But one thing I want to add is patchwork offensive lines sometimes turn out to be the best offensive lines. The Hogs were a patchwork offensive line. The Great Wall of Dallas, that started off as a patchwork line. So it's like patchwork. Hey, and I do like that center that y'all drafted, because I had my eye on him, because as he'll know, I pretty much just all I did for the draft was look at offensive linemen and linebackers. I didn't look at no other position. So good pickup. So go ahead, AJ.
Real quick. This question is for Kevin and Nick to kind of direct towards Mr. Farmer here. If the Bengals went into the season with what the Steelers did on their offensive line, what would you think of what the Bengals did?
I think both teams have concerns. Honestly, you look at it, Cleveland has this god offensive line right now. Yeah. And then really the Ravens have been dealing with their injuries. Cincinnati, did they do enough? Pittsburgh, did they lose too much? It's kind of those. So to answer your question, I think both teams needed to do a little bit more on their offensive line. I'm not saying that they're going to be worse than what they were in 2020, because honestly for Cincinnati, I just don't think that's possible. And for Pittsburgh, yes, losing Pouncey, Villanueva, with Villanueva being in Baltimore, hopefully the scheme fit will be better for him. But at the end of the day, how is Pittsburgh going to be able to, losing to Castro, losing Pouncey? Were those guys performing at a high level before they retired? They were on the downswing. So I don't know. If you flip-flop Cincinnati's line with Pittsburgh's line right now and ask me who's the better team, I probably still think it's Pittsburgh, just because of the weapons that they have and the provenness of Ben Roethlisberger. But that's not saying Joe Burrow can't take that leap, because I think he will. But it might take him a few weeks to get into the full swing of an NFL season with his injury and in the time that he missed.
And I think Cannon kind of hit on it too. Like in the very first thing that he said after Farmer went on his tangent is you cannot discredit Mike Tomlin, man. I would rather have Mike Tomlin with the Steelers line than Zach Taylor with the Bengals line.
Shit, me too.
No, that's not a hot take in saying that.
I wanted him fired.
Mike Tomlin could do way less. He could do way more with less. And Zach Taylor has weapons around him. Like, that's a loaded offense. And they added Jamar Chase. T. Higgins was good last year. They got some good big tight ends. But you need Mike Tomlin. You need Kevin Stefanski, Harbaugh in Baltimore. Zach Taylor now kind of almost looks like the outlier coach. And that's what holds me from putting, Bengals as, a legit third in the AFC North.
Wait, let me just clarify. I didn't say the Bengals would be a legit third. I just said Ben Roethlisberger would be the 4th quarterback in the division. I didn't say where the teams would finish, just in the quarterback ranking. That's all.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think you're still on board there because I think Burrow bounces back this year.
Let me get this thing back on track, right? I'm loving the energy. I could have just sat there and let this thing roll. Kevin, got a question. Now, you alluded to the offensive changes that you guys made in the Ravens, but first round draft pick receiver, he's hurt. Sammy Watkins, he's hurt, and he's hurt again. Hollywood Brown has yeah. So, are we really excited for this passing game to go to the next level?
We are, and look, I will not sugarcoat things. The injury situation that Baltimore's had throughout training camp these first 2-3 weeks it's been getting a bit crazy. It seems like every day there's at least one other person who limps off the field or goes in early. That's football, and two, I'd rather get him out of the way now. But on the offense, you have Marquise Brown, who's doing side work. He has a hamstring. Miles Boykin has a hamstring. Bateman with his core muscle surgery. Deion Kane, who's kind of come on recently. He's been out with an undisclosed thing. And now Sammy Watkins isn't practicing with a thing that he has. So the Ravens are down. I think at one point, and this still might be the case, they had 13 receivers on their roster just because they've had to sign guys because so many people have been hurt. So assuming everybody gets back and healthy, and let's say Bateman comes back in week 4, that's just around then, I think I am excited about it. The offensive line, I think, still has to gel because there have been guys hurt there too. Kevin Zeitler just returned, Ronnie Stanley coming back, Bradley Bozeman's and dealing with some things. But the way that people have viewed this for the last couple of seasons is that Lamar Jackson has not had the proper weapons to fully ascend as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I point to what the Bills did with Josh Allen. They go out and they get him a true number 1 with Stephon Diggs. The Cardinals go out and they get DeAndre Hopkins to help Kyler Murray out. So the Ravens, they don't necessarily get that true number 1-ish star, but they add the pieces around him. Brown and Mark Andrews is there too. And now with Watkins and Bateman, hopefully when they get back, I think this offense is going to open up. Greg Roman's faced a lot of flack for his passing concepts over this, especially over this past year. So I think he knows it's time. The Ravens also brought in 2 great coaches in T. Martin and Keith Williams. Keith Williams has worked with Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins himself, and he's done a lot of great things. And it just seems like there's an energy shift. So I think the Ravens aren't going to all of a sudden become this, 50 pass offense, this air raid offense. They shouldn't be. Their rushing offense is historic, and it's going to probably stay that way for a pretty long time. But in order to win at the NFL level, you have to have a competent pass offense and a competent run offense. And right now, I think the Ravens are putting those pieces around Lamar Jackson so he can ascend. We've seen Des Bryant on Twitter go on a couple of little things where he said, look, Lamar Jackson has this potential to do this stuff, but the Ravens have to open up their offense. So I think this is finally going to happen this year. It might take a couple weeks again, just because there have been so many guys out. There's been so much shuffling, but when it's all said and done at the end of the year, I think we can look back on it and be pretty surprised and pretty pleased with how the Ravens performed in the passing game this year.
I'm glad you said that because you brought up, obviously you were talking about your guy, Lamar Jackson, and you also brought up Josh Allen. I'm glad you brought that up because he got paid.
He did.
Nick, I know you, Nick, I'm coming to you, right?
Oh yeah, I'm ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we feel about Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, so I'm from Cleveland, guys. So born here, raised here, lived here my whole life, and followed this team since they returned in '99. You got to pay Baker what he wants, because and I really would like to see this get done now.
It's the smartest thing ever.
Because the sooner he's not getting any cheaper. And we know Baker from his time in Oklahoma is not a guy that's going to bet against himself. He's going to bet on himself. He wants to go out there and win the MVP and take a crack at the AFC and a crack at the Super Bowl, quite frankly, this season, because he wants that big payday. And he wants, maybe he's scoffing at what Josh Allen got paid because he thinks he could have a breakout year and get Pat Mahomes money. I don't know what's going through Baker's head. He is that kind of guy. He is definitely wired that way. I surely wish that Andrew Berry and company would have proceeded with a little bit more urgency on the Baker Mayfield front, just because I don't want it to be like a Dak repeat situation where we're like, are we going to pay Baker, the first quarterback that we've had in this town, and how long? And I don't want it to become a distraction, kind of like what happened in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly why I asked you. So, speaking of quarterbacks, let's keep this theme going. How's Joe Burrow's recovery coming along, AJ?
Joe Burrow pretty much is I would say he's 90%. When you have an ACL injury, once you get about 9 to 10 months out of surgery, your percentage of re-injury goes down immensely. And the very first week of the season puts him 9 months away from surgery. And so I'm not worried about Joe Burrow at all. Joe Burrow, mentally, he's attacked rehab. He's done all of that. He's looked great in practice. Regardless of what you've heard, the reports that you've heard, Joe Burrow has looked great in practice. The days that he looked bad is the days that they were doing installs and they only had 2-3 plays. And Joe Burrow can't do what he normally does. What is here? Joe Burrow can't come up to the line and say, okay, they're putting this guy in the box, or they're pressing here and they're shading this way, and he checks out of it. So that it made the defense look better because the defense knows what's coming. The defense knows, hey, we're running this. They're running this play. Let's guard it. That now that we're getting closer to the season, Joe Burrow is able to come up to the line and do checks. The offense has been kicking the defense's ass. Jamar Chase, regardless of what they've been telling you, Jamar Chase has been kicking people's ass in practice now that him and Joe Burrow can look at each other, pick an option route, and, they can run that. So our offense has gotten up to speed. Joe Mixon's healthy. T. Higgins, he's recovered from his hamstring that he was dealing with all last season while he put up those great numbers. Joe Burrow's healthy. And regardless of what you say about our offensive line, someone mentioned it. I think it was you, Nick, that said addition by subtraction. We got rid of Bobby Hart.
That was Marcus.
That was Farmer.
That was Farmer. So regardless of what you say, we got rid of Bobby Hart and we replaced him with Riley Reef. So not only is Bobby Hart out of our lineup, we did make an upgrade with Riley Reef. So our offensive line has gotten better just by doing that. I don't know if you guys have seen Bobby Hart, but he should not have been starting in the NFL. Okay. So just that alone has made our offensive line better. And there's been competition. So even I honestly don't care if our offensive line is a top 10 offensive line in the NFL, because quite honestly, you don't need a top 10 offensive line to be competitive. You need a competent offensive line. You can't just let free runners go. You can't have people who can't communicate. We need to be able to communicate, guard stunts, and that's what Bobby Hart failed at. Bobby Hart was letting stunts and free runners go all the time. That's all it is. So if we can be competent, give Joe Burrow some time and allow Joe Mixon to be Joe Mixon, I think our offense can be, even with a top 20 offensive line, our offense can end up being a top 12 offense.
All right. So we're going to start it off. We're going to end it like this. I'm sorry, y'all. The energy is so great right now. I don't want to end it, but we got to keep this thing moving. So we're going to go like this. Marcus Farmer, start off with your prediction, the record prediction.
All right.
Mind you, it's one more game, bro.
I don't want to be a homer, so I'm gonna be realistic. Just looking at the schedule, and we probably have the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. My heart says 10-7. My heart says 9-6. I just think that top half of the schedule, I think there's gonna be a couple losses in there. Pittsburgh always loses the one team that we kind of play down to the competition level. So if you want to ask my pick, I'll say 10-7.
But if you go 9-6, y'all not making the playoffs, right?
We'll probably be a wild card team. You never know. AFC is top heavy.
It'd be 9-8.
It's 9-8.
9-8.
Y'all know what it meant. I'm sorry.
You know what I meant. But yeah, I think 10 wins this year is going to get you a wild card. I don't see foreseeing 9. We never know. It all depends how I check. To me, the AFC is top heavy. You got the Chiefs, you got the Bills, and then everything else is up for grabs, in my opinion. And that's just being real. I think the Cleveland hype is a little premature right now. On paper, every team looks good on paper. I think Cleveland has an amazing roster, but until we see it all together,
I need to see that defense.
Yeah, everybody's giving Cleveland the Super Bowl before the first snap's ever been taken. So we'll see what happens. But I think 10 wins will get us in a wild card, and anything can happen there.
All right, Nick. They got you in the Super Bowl already, Nick. You ready?
Yeah, I don't know about Super Bowl guys. I think that, this team is. We talk about Baker being the first quarterback in forever, right? How about Kevin Stefanski? We finally have a well-coached team, and that was my biggest takeaway from Jacksonville, where the Browns' third stringers were hanging in there with Jacksonville starters, was just because it doesn't matter who steps on the field, they're going to be well-coached. I think that's what I'm looking forward to the defense too. Now that they finally have some talent on that side of the football, they'll hopefully be able to string things together mid/late season. JOK absolutely has balled out in camp after coming off the COVID list, and then coming into the preseason as well. He played phenomenal in Jacksonville, so it's crazy how that dude fell to the second round. I'm going to go 12-5. I know that's kind of a bolsterous take and a bolsterous position to take, but it's time for the Cleveland Browns. They wandered through the desert for 20 years of 1-31 and Hugh Jackson
30.
and Freddie Kitchen. And it's time, it's definitely time for the Browns to make that next step, and that's winning 12 games and get into the AFC Championship berth this season.
30 years.
Kev, I see your face. I see your face.
Hey, and I'm a little surprised because, Nick, I have the Browns at 13-4, so I'm a little higher on them. But also, I have the Ravens at 13-4. I have them both with the same record because they're both phenomenal teams, and I think it's going to be that two-team race. Baltimore in general, though, I think they addressed their needs, and obviously so did Cleveland and so did so many other teams. But the way that Baltimore attacked this offseason, they saw what happened in Buffalo in the divisional round. They saw how bad that offensive line played. Lamar Jackson got a concussion in that game because his center couldn't snap the football properly. So they kind of reworked their offensive line. I still think, and I've said it before, it's going to take a few weeks, maybe a month or two to get everybody situated. But you have Lamar Jackson, former league MVP, unanimous MVP. He's going to, I think, ascend this year. People said he had a down year in 2020 compared to his MVP season. Absolutely he did, because I don't think many people, if any, can continue to ascend from a season like that. By the time Lamar Jackson's 30 years old, we'd be talking about him having 100 touchdowns and all this kind of stuff. So statistical regression was expected from me, but he was efficient in a lot of areas that I thought were key for him. Red zone completion percentage. He needs to work a bit on his deep ball, and he's been putting in works over the receivers. But with the defense they have, Justin Houston, I thought, was a huge, huge get for the Ravens, just because they lost Matthew Judon. They lost Yannick Ngakoue. They needed some pass rushing help. I think the defense is going to be another top 5 unit this year. You have Marlon Humphrey in that secondary, Marcus Peters too. That taunting penalty might get him a few times, but you know what? You'll take it with a Marcus Peters. So I think this is a 13-4 team. Now, I know a lot of people have said this is a Super Bowl year for the Ravens. I personally don't see it that way. I think they can win the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. They have all the pieces. But if they don't, this is not a Super Bowl or bust year for them. I think it's AFC Championship or bust, because that shows growth. They went to the divisional round. Lamar Jackson gets that first playoff win. If they can get to the AFC Championship game at least this year, and if they can win the Super Bowl, then I'm sure they'll take it, obviously. But I think that at the end of the day, AFC Championship or bust is my prediction this year for the Ravens.
I appreciate that. So, AJ, go ahead, wrap it up.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to be quick. I'm going 7-10.
Mm-hmm.
Anything less than 7-10, Zach Taylor's not the coach. He's got to get fired. I've asked for Zach Taylor to get fired last year. We all know this. I'm not sold on Zach Taylor. At least Lou Anarumo's got to go. But anything less than 7 wins, he's got to go, and we got to get on the market. And please bring Eric Bieniemy into the Bengals organization like he used to be as a player. I think with where we're at now, Lou Anarumo has all of his players. If we're a bottom 5 defensive team, Lou Anarumo's got to go. If Joe Burrow's dropping back to throw 40 times a game, Zach Taylor's got to go, because you're an offensive coach. This is the offense that you designed. You have Joe Mixon. You talked about how Joe Mixon is, a top 5 back in this league, how Joe Mixon can catch out of the backfield, how he runs between the tackles, runs outside of the tackles. If you don't allow him to assert himself as one of those top backs in the league and you're just sitting him back there, no, it's got to go. You have to create balance in this team. You have to allow the weapons to really be who they are. So to me, the path to us getting 7, I think our window is between 7 to 9 wins. If we upset some people, we can get to 9 wins. But I believe the minimum is 7, and our path to upset those teams are getting Joe Mixon 25 plus touches a game. Because now that's going to open up everything else. Because Joe Burrow's healthy. You replaced AJ Green, who had 100 targets, with Jamar Chase, who looks healthy, who looks good, who has a rapport with Joe Burrow. And then you're bringing back a 100% healthy T. Higgins. T. Higgins was playing on a bad hamstring all season long, got 900 yards. Tyler Boyd, who I've been calling for the longest, the best slot receiver in the league. Nick, I don't care about Jarvis Landry. Mm-hmm. Tyler Boyd is the best slot receiver in the league. 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He would have had it again last season if it wasn't for playing with Brandon Allen and Ryan Finley and then getting ejected in that Dolphins game, which was completely trash. But I think we have the best receiving core in the league. In the division. And Joe Burrow, I think, is going to be, back to 100%. So I think right now, seven wins is our floor. So I think 7-10 is where we're going to be.
All right, but Hill, I know we got to get out of here, but real quick before we go, I just want, real quick, fellas, I want everybody to just give me breakout players from your team, and I'll give you my breakout player from the division. I'll start off. Hopefully it's not yours, AJ. Jackson Carman, offensive tackle, Bengals. I think he has a breakout year. Farmer, you next.
I'm going with the obvious pick. I think Najee Harris breaks 1,000 yards this year, rookie of the year candidate. And I think people are just going to be surprised at how well we utilize him this year.
Okay. Nick?
I don't know if this is a breakout candidate, guys, and really there's 2 of them, but it's going to be Odell Beckham. After that trade, people were putting the Browns right in Super Bowl contention in 2019 with Baker in a sophomore season and Freddie Kitchens as a guy where you could walk into your local CVS and find somebody that had managed more people. And the expectations were that sky high, and Odell Beckham has never lived up to those expectations in Cleveland. Despite a 1,000-yard season, it didn't come with much success in the win column. It was a 6-win year. So I think if Odell is healthy and if he's engaged and locked in, and as he tells us, the media, every day that he speaks, that he doesn't care about the touches and he doesn't care about the targets, and it's all about getting to that Super Bowl at this stage, then the sky's the limit for this offense and for Baker to have a true number 1, and that's going to be OBJ.
Kevin?
For me, it's a defensive tackle, Justin Madubuike. He's a second-year guy.
I like Madubuike.
Yes, out of Texas A&M. And with Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, Derek Wolfe, those guys are all over 30. I expect the Ravens to kind of scale those guys' snaps back a bit and put Madubuike in a role to succeed. Didn't do anything special on the box score, 19 total tackles, 1 sack in 2020, but he was chasing down screens. He was generating interior pressure. He was stuffing the run. In the preseason game against New Orleans on Saturday, he had a forced fumble, was in the backfield. This guy's going to be a stud, I think, in 2021. He's been my breakout candidate for months, so I have to stay consistent and go with him.
AJ?
Joseph Osai. We grabbed Joseph Osai out of Texas, and if you just look at that very first preseason game, all the reports that came out of training camp were true. He has a motor that never stops. He's relentless. He's going to get to the quarterback or he's going to get to the ball carrier. And I think him being able to be a rotational piece as a defensive end and the edge rusher is going to do a lot coming behind Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. And you put him on those passing sets where we are in a 5-2 or a 3-4. He might prove to be one of, the top 5 pass rushers in this division.
All right. So I see Cam, I see. Cam, I see. Cam, go ahead and plug your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know where they can find you, Cam.
Yeah. So I'm
sorry.
No, you're okay. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, again for the Locked On Ravens podcast, 5 days a week there. On Twitter, my personal handle is at Oestreicher34. And I also write for USA Today's Ravens Wire there 7 days a week.
Nick?
Yeah, definitely. You guys can follow me on Twitter at NickPedone12, and my podcast on the Big Play Network is Pedone My Take. So go check it out for a lot of Cleveland-based sports talk.
Absolutely.
Right. Marcus, let them know where they can find you.
Hey, man, this has been so fun. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at DudaMath, DUDA_MAF. Have fun, man. Enjoy y'all guys, man.
Funny thing about it is, man, the energy was unmatched. This might have been the best one. This might have been the best one.
This is definitely the best round table that we have done. Fellas.
So we might have to do a part 2. We might have to do
absolutely.
We could do a mid-season check-in. Let me know.
I'm down.
That's a fact.
That's a great idea. A mid-season check-in. Check y'all temperature. Let's see if the predictions is going to be good. But I appreciate y'all, fellas. We're gonna move on.
All right, so thank you all for joining. I'm gonna reach out to all 3 of you. You know, like I said, we're gonna do some more. We're gonna do some pregame prep later on in the season. But I thank you all, and you know, next time it's gonna be fun. I appreciate you. So take care.
For sure.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys.
All right.